Hi, my name is Neil Bradley. I'm part of the team from the Convicts Special Interest Group of Family History Western Australia who are building the West Australian Convict Database. This is our main page here where we try to explain the steps that we're going through in terms of delivering information about West Australian convicts. Go into more detail in the change log where we're more specific about the steps that we're going through, and we give a timeline of whatever's been loaded into the database so you can understand exactly where we're up to. There's two main places where data is stored to give you information about a convict. One of them is at the ship level, and you can see that we have a page here for every ship that came to Western Australia. If we just have a look at the York, all right, you can see here we've got a little bit of information about when the ship left, who the captain was, etc., how many convicts. We've got an image of a book here, and that's because this book is largely about William Oldham and his family, and William Oldham was on the York. So wherever we find a book that is sort of specifically related to someone that was on a ship, we've tried to put details of it so that you're aware of that these books exist. In this case, I think there's a copy of this book in Family History WA. If not, there'll be a copy in the State Library. But when you see it in the sources, or in the citations, I'll show you where to look as to know where there's a copy of the book. So at the ship level, in order to not spend a huge amount of time trying to put data in for each convict that's actually there, well, in this case, it's not sequential. This transportation register gives you each convict that's on the ship and by where they were convicted. So if you know where your convict was convicted, you can see some details about him of all of the convicts that were on the York. So the people that were convicted at Cambridge, Joseph Mann was only the one, right? He was convicted in 1858 by the looks of things, and he got 7 years. Other registers have more information. The 21B that exists for every ship bar the last 4 has information for each convict on the ship, when they got their ticket of leave. If you look up the top, that's a ticket of leave column. When they got their conditional pardon, if there is a record of the sentence expiring, if they happen to die while they're in custody, and over on the right-hand side, those that were issued with a certificate of freedom, it will give the date of when that was issued. So that's a really interesting register to have a look at the dates that apply to your convict. The sort of most interesting register, if you like, is the general register, and unfortunately these don't exist for all convicts. But where they do exist, and if it happens to be for your convict, then you're in luck, right? Because let me just go to somebody interesting, because there's a lot of information here about each convict. Unfortunately, as I said, not there for every convict. But if you look at 6501, William Abbott, some details about his arrival, his crime, and where he's convicted, etc. But down here gives you the date of his certificate of freedom. It tells you that on the 7th of March, 1866, he was drunk and he got 3 months, well, like 2 months, 2 months for that. And then down here, there's the details of his ticket of leave engagements as to what he worked as. In this case, he started off as a butcher, and down here is just a general servant and a labourer. How much he got paid, which district he was working in. The Victoria district is in the Geraldton area. Who his employer was, and where he was residing. So fabulous information if it's there, if you're lucky and you get that information. Sorry, let's just go back one. And there's the description list, which is available for all convicts, which is a printed list that we might just go to the multiple copies of each page, and it pays to go to the next page if you're not getting a clear copy. So you can see here that convicts that are on the York, their age, height, their details about their hair colour, their complexion, etc., their body build, if they had any tattoos, their occupation, whether they were married or single, if they had any kids, right? So this is sort of the source information, if you like, for some of the stuff that you may have seen in the convict book. Well, now you can see where it came from. And if there's anything interesting also at the ship level, in this case, there's a journal of the voyage, we've put a link to it here. Right? So there's a lot of stuff that's available at the convict level, but you have to look at it through the ship to scroll through to find your convict, rather than we haven't delivered it, every piece of information linked to each convict. Now, if we go and have a look at we'll go back to the York and have a look at the individual convicts. You can get to your convict in multiple ways. You can go through the ship index to look at your convict. You can use the surname index, or if you happen to know your convict's number, you can go and use the ID lookup to look up your convict. Right, so let's scroll down to one I've selected earlier. I've chosen this John Buchanan because he has some interesting facts that allow me to highlight some of the things that we're doing. And also, we've got a photo of him. Right now, when he was in Western Australia, he was actually known as Thomas Mainwaring. So if you look on Ancestry, he was Thomas Mainwaring. But when he came out as a convict, his name was John Buchanan. I haven't looked up to see which was his real name. So often they were convicted under an alias and not their real name. So, and sometimes they ended up with multiple aliases. This guy's only got one that we've recorded, but some of them have 3 and 4 names that they were known as. But you can see if he's known as by more than one name, we'll put the details up the top here. If we have a photo, it'll be here. If we know any death and burial information, it will be here. You can see in this case there's a little camera icon. That means we've got a photo of his headstone. All right, so you can have a look at that. The underlining underneath the place names will take you to the place index. So if you click on Bunbury Pioneer Cemetery, you can see here, Bunbury Pioneer Cemetery, that there were 6 that we know of buried at the Bunbury Pioneer Cemetery. But you need to be a little bit cautious there, because we've got a whole heap more born at the Bunbury Pioneer Catholic Cemetery, and it's possible with the quality of the data that we've got our hands on, 1 or 2 of these might have been buried in the Catholic Cemetery as well. It's not the data's not perfect, if you like. This section here has some life events, mostly related to his conviction, but also when he arrived, he said he was unmarried. He said he was a tailor, and he was literate, and he got convict number 613. He came out on the York and had arrived in 1862, and he'd been collected from Portsmouth Prison. And then details about his ticket of leave and conditional pardon, etc. If we know of any references to convicts in any book, we will put the details here with a citation down the bottom. In this case, we don't have a reference to him in a book, but we do know that there is a story about him at Harvey History Online. So we put a link in to that story. So if you just click on that link, it will take you to Harvey History Online, and there is a story here about Thomas Mainwaring and James Henry Dixon. If he happens to be in an index, and look, every convict will be in at least the index for their ship, but there are some other special indexes that we have, which I'll show you quickly in a minute. It will show up here. And really all that happens if you click on this, it'll just take you to all of the convicts that are in that index. In the citations section, where we can, and there's a lot of places we can't do it, like the West Australian Births, Deaths and Marriages, we can't link to an individual record, but in Trove and Find a Grave and a number of other places, East Perth Cemetery and that, we can actually link to the individual record. So this citation number 1 here relates to his death, you can see up here, and citation number 3 here relates to his burial. So the Trove link here, we'll take you to Trove, which is a story about his death. Oh, it's not a big story. It's really just claims on the estate. So we found a reference to him in the paper. There wasn't actually a story. And this will take you to Find a Grave, where someone has added details and put up his an image of his headstone. Often researchers have also added links to other members, the graves of other members of his family, that can be quite useful, but it hasn't happened in this case. Now, obviously, all of that's unsourced. You'll need to check it to be confident, but we try and put them in where we can find them. Now, also for every convict, except for a few in convicts that came from Ireland, where they were convicted in Ireland, we've been able to find details of prison registers. And we put the links in a PDF file and attached it to each convict. So in this case, he was convicted at the Warwick Assizes. He went to Millbank Prison first. All right, let me just open that link. Let's open that link in a new window. All right. A little bit slow loading Find My Past. And here he is here, John Buchanan, 24 years old. He's a tailor, single. He could read and write. He was convicted in Warwick for uttering counterfeit corn, got 14 years. He'd come from Warwick jail, and he'd previously been convicted for 3 years in 1858. And he was sent off to Portsmouth on the 23rd of July, 1862. You get different information for different time periods and different prisons. So they're not all the same, but that happened to be what you got for Millbank. Unfortunately, a lot of this information is only available. I think I can close that down and get back. Is only available in paid sites. So Find My Past, the one that we've used the most. Where we can, we'll give you a link to Trove, where a lot of the Australian Joint Copying Project stuff is sitting. And so in the case of Portsmouth Prison, all of the records, even up to 1862, are there. So I'll just open that quickly to show you. Right. So this is the left-hand side of the page for Portsmouth Prison, and here's John Buchanan. And you can get at that for free. So where we can find them, we will, and put them in just to make your life easier. But unfortunately, you're going to have to visit your local library or the state library or Family History WA if you don't have access to Find My Past, which I understand is a nuisance, but that's where the data is, sadly. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you quickly is that we've just put in a few indexes. Some of these we put in for fun, so that you, for instance, you can see all of the convicts that we know left for WA for South Australia. There was obviously probably quite a few more, but we don't know of, but these are the ones we know about. Ones that left the colony, ones that died on the way to Western Australia, ones that were executed, ones that lived spent time in the Albany region, the Gamelling region. We'll put some more of these in. We haven't finished. Those that are in the Midwest Convict Database, which is a really sensational piece of work done up in the Midwest about convicts that spent time there. There's a lot of information in that database that we don't have. Convicts that appear in the York Census, convicts that are transferred to Western Australia twice. That one is not just 20. Convicts that were transported anywhere twice, right? Some of them were transported to Western Australia twice, but this index will give you convicts that were transported twice. Convicts that are convicted of returning from transportation. Some of them left and went home and got pinged again. Those that were court-martialed with a D brand for deserter, etc. Right? So they're just some fun indexes to let you have a look at some of the interesting things that happen to convicts. Do want to spend a little bit of time on our links page. We've got a number of links here to help you have a look at what's available on the Australian Joint Copying Project on Trove. And there's some fabulous data there. And it's not just there for Western Australia. We're obviously going to point you at where stuff starts for Western Australia. But if you hunt around and look further back in time, you'll see information for Tasmania and New South Wales, etc. So it's the ASAP stuff is fabulous. But we've also got links to all of the other things that we think are of value in terms of Western Australian convicts. This one here is interesting. We've found the half-yearly returns in Trove of the convict establishment that sent information back to the UK. Now, in the later years, they became annual returns, but for the first few years they were half-yearly returns, and the information here, and there's a lot of information in each of those, and they're really quite fascinating. The other thing that we've got links to, and I won't try and click on one of these because they're um, very slow to load. There's actually published books that the State Library of Western Australia have digitised, where for the whole of Australia there were reports sent to the British Parliament about what had been going on in the state in relation to convicts, and these mostly related to the years where the convicts were active in Western Australia, but there are still entries for the other states in these later years. They were still reporting what was going on with their convicts in those later years. So that's all on the State Library's Pinterest site, but we've put links through it here so you can download those if you want to. We have put in a gallery so you can just see all of the photos that we have in one place. If you happen to spot your convict there, you can click on him and it will take you to him. So everything's sort of linked. If you see something somewhere, it'll take you to the link. So that is just a quick summary of what's going on in our site. If you find something that's wrong or you have some extra information that you think we should include, feel free to contact us through this Contact Us page, and we'll be more than happy to make some changes. So thanks very much.